And I'll share my screen and we'll just visit the two websites about the activities. And so first we have FinÉcoLab. Here I am on the FinÉcoLab website at FinÉcoLab.com. That's easy enough, I suppose. And okay, I just want to make sure that I'll see if anyone is joining the meeting. Okay, that's okay now. So FinÉcoLab, when you land on the landing page, on the home page, you see that you can do the games as a single player, or you can ask for the multiplayer kit. And normally teachers are using the multiplayer kit because they want to propose the activities to their whole class. But after class, maybe your student can come back to the website and use the single player version of the games that you've shown in class. And the other activity is Bourstad. Bourstad is a set of stock market simulations, 3 types of stock market simulations. And as you'll see, it's very up to date. I mean, very realist as a proposition if you want to introduce a stock market in your classes. So I'll just be using my presentation. Okay, so we're talking about financial education activities proposed by CIRANO. And first, I'll say a few words about CIRANO. What is CIRANO? And we'll first talk about the FinÉcoLab educational game set, and then Bourstad stock market simulations. Okay, CIRANO is a Montreal-based economic think tank. Well, it was established 30 years ago. We'll be celebrating the 30th anniversary in 2024. And CIRANO, in fact, is, well, let's talk about the partners. It's 12 universities, 14 corporate partners, meaning large institutional corporation. The Bank of Canada is also part of it. Autorité des marchés financiers, the main partner of FinÉcoLab and Bourstad, by the way, and 4 governmental partners, meaning Government of Canada, Government of Quebec, City of Montreal as well. Over the years, CIRANO has published more than 2,000 publications on public policy. CIRANO, in fact, these are experts in various scientific domains and that are publishing public policy reports, trying to influence the policy decision made by governments mostly, but also, sometimes by corporations. And the financial education activities that I'll be proposing tonight have been offered since 10 years now, since 2013. Okay, as I mentioned, we'll start by talking about FinÉcoLab, the game sets. It's about experimental and behavioral finance, economics and finance. So first, we'll say a few words about what is FinÉcoLab. We'll have a presentation of the game set by categories because the games are separated in different categories, rank in different categories. We'll give a look at the teacher resources for these games, and we'll look a little more deeply into one of the games, the savings games. And finally, we'll talk about creating your own teacher's account on the website. Okay, so CIRANO has developed FinÉcoLab game set since 2013, as I mentioned. It was supported by Autorité des marchés financiers, which is our securities regulator in Quebec. and 14 organizations that were gathered by Finance Montreal, which is an organization about the cluster, the financial cluster in Quebec. Even if the name is Finance Montreal, it's all over Quebec. And there were two main goals about FinÉcoLab. First, the development of quality teaching materials, freely available, that can be used to present basic financial and economic concepts. We introduced the French version of the game in 2013, and the English version was introduced last year in 2022. Building FinÉcoLab was part of various representations that were conducted with the aim of bringing back an economic and finance course in the high school curriculum, because in 2009, there was an old course, it was eliminated, and for 8 years, in fact, there were no economic and finance course in the high school curriculum, and Autorité des marchés financiers, CIRANO, and all the partners around FinÉcoLab, they made a joint effort to bring back such a course in the high school curriculum. So FinÉcoLab is maybe two important things. First, that's experimental economics. So experimental economics uses experimental methods to find answers to social science questions that would be challenging to answer by using the blackboard and some graphs on the board. And it's better to have the student experiment the concept. So when you conduct FinÉcoLab games in a class, your class becomes a laboratory, an experimental laboratory, and all students are involved in taking decisions like buying, selling, cooperating, savings, and it's by making these decisions that the phenomenon is revealed, appears obvious to all those that takes part in the experiment. And so experimental economics is a rather new field in economics, but it has already many uses. Recently, a Nobel Prize was handed to a Canadian economist, as I recall, because they were able to demonstrate that increasing the minimum wage by conducting experiment in a laboratory would not be detrimental to the economic growth of the country or the province that would implement such an increase. But FinÉcoLab is also about behavioral economics and finance, and that rather new field of economics and finance suppose that all economic agents are not purely rational. They are also affected by psychological, cognitive, emotional, cultural, social factors, and they take these factors into consideration when they decide how to behave about the financial matters. So behavioral finance will propose that psychological influences and biases affect financial behaviors of investors and financial practitioners. So if you want to have more information, by the way, maybe I can share that presentation because it's being recorded, but the presentation itself, I can share it right now in the chat if I find the link.
And then what I can do is we usually write up a blog post of these sessions. And so I'll make sure that that link is in my blog post.
Very nice. So here you have the presentation itself, but it's being recorded. So you maybe interested just in hearing my explanation about what all these activities are about. So FinÉcoLab, as I mentioned, it was launched in 2013, but we are currently in a program sponsored by Autorité des Marchés Financiers that we call it the 2020-2025 Division Program. And this program enabled us to translate the games in English. So 12 games are already available and on the platform. We have 12 of the 18 games that are already translated. And we are about finishing translating the 6 remaining games. And we think about deploying this new translation in January. It's almost done, almost finished, and we'll be making that will be available come January. And regularly we have webinars and trainings for teachers. So if you visit the landing page, the home page, you'll see on the left side there is a pane where all our webinars are mentioned, and so you can register for all these activities that will be offered until the end of the program, 2025. And we also have constant support for users, so users can get in touch with us, and we normally answer the phone instantly, or we can also receive requests by emails. So let's have a look at the games by categories. So market and prices, individual preferences, individual choices, collective choices, and institutions. So first, about market and prices, the first game is a double option game, probably the most popular of all the game set. It's about the law of supply and demand. So your class are separated between buyers and sellers of chocolate. And by offering to buy the chocolate at a certain price, or offering to sell their chocolate at a certain price, the class eventually discovered the equilibrium price. So it's the law of supply and demand in action, literally. And the speculative bubble game, which is currently not translated, but will become available very soon. This game is about learning how financial markets can sometimes be the scene of speculative bubbles. So some bubbles will form on the markets. Stock markets are very prone to this, let's say, anomaly, that we can say. So market and price category, the prices category. The second category is about individual preferences. So here you have the lottery choice game. Participants determine their risk profiles. It's an activity about the risk of winning, while the loss aversion game is a separate activity about the risk of losing. Let's say that psychologists have discovered that it's not exactly the reverse. In fact, our attitude when we may win something is not exactly the same when we are in a situation where a loss could occur. The ambiguity game, now presently only available in French, is about situation when it's not very clear if you could win or lose. So it's ambiguous. And finally, the discount game is a game about the impatience that some people will demonstrate when they want to consume a new product, and they may be very anxious to have this new product. And the activity, in fact, the activity will propose that you can get a certain discount if you're ready to wait to buy the product. And the game will test how impatient your students are as consumers. Then we have the individual choices categories. And in this category, there are 5 games. 3 are shown here. The first one is the insurance game. So it's a game if you want to show your student the mechanic of insurance, how it works. The second game is the savings games. It's the games about setting aside, let's say, an emergency fund, precautionary saving, as we could say, the first basis of saving already. And we also have the debt game. So participants see the consequences of their savings decision. And here the situation starts with someone that is already in debt in some way because there's not much money left after he has paid for what he must absolutely pay every year, every month. So there's not much money left, and he has to save enough so he can confront maybe losing his job or a car accident or any type of situation that would require an amount of money suddenly. 2 other games in this category, the retirement game, and participants decide how much they want to save for retirement. It might be surprising to propose a games about retirement to young students, but you might be aware that when retirement is the question, the clock starts ticking at 18 years old. You know, the Canada Pension Plan, all your earnings will be taken into account from the moment you reach 18 years old. So maybe your students are not aware of this situation, but they should be. They should certainly be. The last game of this category is the portfolio selection game. So the portfolio selection game, we see the relationship between the risk and return. And so it's a game about investment saving compared to the savings game, which is about emergency funds. So your student will be able to determine, are they prudent? Are they aggressive? Are they in middle, in between? Okay, so the next category is about collective choices. So here, all these games are being translated as we speak, and we believe that by January, by the beginning of next year, it will already be available. So in these games, the participants learn that individuals take more than just their own interests into account when making decisions. So, in fact, the ultimatum game, there is someone who proposes, and another participant which will have to reply. So the student that will propose has $100 to share with the other participant in the team. They're grouped by a team of 2. And the proposer has to be careful, because if the amount he or she proposes is not enough, the respondent can refuse. And when this happens, both are left with $0. But if the student that is replying accepts, so they both get the amount of money, the amount that was proposed out of the $100, and the amount that is left for the proposer. For the dictator game, there's only one slight difference. What is proposed has to be accepted. So it's interesting to play both games in sequence. First, the ultimatum game, which is more democratic, because they both have to agree, in fact. And dictator, which is more like autocracy. But maybe the real situation would be more like the double endowment ultimatum game, because in this game, the proposer has $100, but the student that will be replying to the offer is not absolutely devoid of any money. He has a small amount of money. So participants learn that individuals have preferences that take relative incomes into account. Collective choices, some other games, the public goods.
Sorry, Paul, can I just stop you for a sec, just to understand that
Okay, fine.
the dictator one. So is kind of the goal to see how corrupt the kids become when they know that the recipient has to accept their proposal?
Well, you'll see a difference normally with the ultimatum game. In fact, because the replier will have the ability to refuse, and then both students are left with no money at all. In fact, it's interesting to watch the difference between the two games, exactly about what you're mentioning.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Exactly about what you're mentioning. But the double endowment ultimatum game is more like the societies we have. Okay, because in fact, we pay taxes and everybody is paying taxes. We rarely see manifestations or protests about people that will take the street to say we are paying too much taxes. But in fact, they will vote about that. And we may see it in the upcoming federal election, but they don't take the street. When you have to pay your tax, you pay your tax. So the public goods game, so participants learn about the challenges of financing public goods through voluntary contributions. So it's a game about a hypothetical game that suppose that in the society we would be financing, let's say, the CBC or the roads or the bridges by voluntary contributions. And in fact, it's a good game to teach them that we need to have a tax system at all. The tax game is about filing a tax return, declaring your income, and if you don't do it completely, you're subject to fines, and maybe you'll be audited. And if so, you'll have to pay a fine and pay the due taxes, obviously. And the pollution game being translated as we speak. So students are managing firms, and they have to pay an amount of money every year to repair the pollution they caused with their firms. And if they don't do it, they can be audited. It's a bit like the tax game. And if they don't have paid the amount of money to repair the damages, they'll be subject to a fines and to paying the amount of money they should have paid. And the last game, we did it today with a webinar in French. It's the common resource game. So participants decide to what extent they should exploit a common resource that belongs to everyone. So that's about the tragedy of the commons, private property, how we should govern the common resources. So let's give a look at the teacher resources. So you have a video that will describe, it's an animated video with narration, describe what is FinÉcoLab. It's a very short video. You have tutorials using FinÉcoLab, a sequence of steps, doing a trial run, dealing with connection issues. We don't hear very much about this today, I would say, because a quick start guide, a tablet setup guide, and activities. In Quebec, we have two courses where the games are used. One is called financial education, in fact, and the other contemporary world. So what courses could be used in these particular courses? What game could be used in these courses? For most of the game, there are two guides. The first one is about getting started, an overview of the activity, and the second one is more about planning using a game in the classroom. So what you should be doing in preparing the activity, how you should animate the game, how you should lead into the game, animate the discussion after the game has taken place. You also have the opportunity to give a look at what you did before, the games you did in previous session of your course. You can show the results, the payoff, have a look at what every student did in these activities. If you need help, you'll find on the left pane of the landing page a button where you can contact us by email, but you can also phone us. We have a telephone number and we reply normally instantly. Okay, let's give a look at the savings games. So games about emergency funds, disposable income, savings rates. And so when you lead into this game, you can ask your students, are you putting money aside for personal projects? Did you ever have to deal with some unexpected expense? There are two types of saving, the emergency funds, and normally it's the first saving that you should do. And eventually you can do some investment savings. And the savings game, as I mentioned before, is about the emergency funds, the cushion money. So in this game, your goal is to build a sufficient financial safety net while maintaining a reasonable consumption level. So here you have the steps. Suppose we do it in a class setting. If you agree, I will do it as a single player activity just to show you exactly what the game is all about. So first I have the instruction. It's the same thing if you would be doing it with a class. You are an employee. At the beginning of each month, you have $1,000 and must pay $300 for living expenses. That means that each month you've got $700 left to spare. You can either spend that money or save it for later in case you lose your job. So here we see exactly what will be the interface of the game. Every dollar you spend earns you $1 per month. Every dollar you save is added to your cumulative savings. Okay, so I'll start. And this is my first period. I don't know if you want to make me some suggestion about what I should spend or save. Maybe I can try to just go in between. I spend half the money, I save half the money. Could be enough. Okay. Try it again. Okay, I have $700 as cumulative savings. Okay, let's go on. My saving is still increasing. I have my job. Okay. Okay, j'ai toujours une job. I still have my job. Say, okay. Everything's fine for the moment. Okay. The labor market is very good for me. Ah, I've lost my job and I still have my money to spend, so my cumulative saving will decrease. Okay, I can resume saving my money. Here, in fact, since I'm doing the game as a single player, we don't have the collective behavior. That's something that you will observe in your class, certainly. I was quite lucky because I only lost my job once. Normally, we're not so lucky. So I end the game with a cumulative saving of $3,550. So that's not so bad. And you see, I'm providing. I have a final payoff of $3,850. That's my payoff because my payoff is what I spend. It's not my cumulative savings, it's what I spent. But I was not able to save when I lost my job. That's because the reason why my payoff is not the same as my savings. Okay, so we have quite a look at FinÉcoLab. So after the game, eventually we can discuss the situation with the student. How did they decide to save? Are they grasshopper or an ant? How would you explain an emergency fund in your own words? So to create your teacher's account, you have to go on the website, click on the complete multiplayer kit. And if you don't already have an account, you just click on register for free and you fill the form and your account will be there. Maybe I did not mention it, but FinÉcoLab is totally free. Okay, there's no charge to your school or to yourself for using these games. And it's brought to you by CIRANO with the support of Autorité des marchés financiers and 12 partners. So that would be the Laurentian Bank, the National Bank, the Royal Bank, the TD Bank, BMO, the Montreal Exchange, Fiera Capital, Fonds d'Action, Fonds de Solidarité, Investissement Québec, Desjardins, Power Corp, Standard Life, and Sun Life. And you also have our contact information if you want to get in touch with us. So that's about FinÉcoLab. I don't know if there are any questions about FinÉcoLab before I go on with Bourstad. Any questions?
I had a question.
Go on, Wendy.
My question, I had a couple questions. One was, are there certain games that are better for certain grade levels, or did you have a particular grade level range in mind when the games were made? Just thinking, you know, the difference between, say, a grade 11 or 12 economics student and maybe a grade 9 or 10 civics student or something like that. And then my other question was, were teachers involved in making the lessons and the games? Because it's always interesting to know that.
Certainly they were involved, in fact. But as I mentioned, the plan was to bring back a financial education course, an economics course in the high school curriculum. But and this course was introduced in we call it the secondary 5 or grade, that would be grade 12 in Quebec. Right. But we've seen since the games have been introduced that they are being used from, let's say, secondary 2, which would be, I suppose, grade 9,
right.
10, 11, and 12.
Okay.
Some of the games, like the savings game that I just did, it's quite easy to understand.
Right, and I think I was thinking about the debt one as well. That would be a one that might be easy for younger students to, not really young students, but, you know, grade 9.
I would say that you say the common resource game, because in this game you send 3 people in a boat fishing on a lake, and they have to be careful not to completely deplete the lake.
So that's a really good one.
That would be interesting even for grade 9, 10, or 11 students. And certainly.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Nice, thank you for the questions. So let's go on with the Bourstad stock market simulation. We believe it to be an exciting way to get familiar with the world of economics and finance. And a few words on where we come from, 3 types of simulation, what defines a Bourstad simulation, and the Bourstad program for high school, CEGEP, and community colleges, teachers' dashboard, and testimonials. So Bourstad started in 1987 in a single school, the CEGEP in Montreal. In 1992, we extended it to other CEGEPs, and the year after, high schools were involved as well in 1993. And the activity is also offered to the general public since the year 2000. Obviously, when we started, we're using computers to process the trades, but portfolio management was done with handwritten forms, and by 2001, we just integrated the portfolio management to the transactional platform. We added the responsible investment component in 2005, so that will be the 20th year that we'll have it with the challenge 2024. In 2015, Collège de Rosemont transferred Bourstad to CIRANO, and the year after we launched a new technological platform. 3 types of simulation on the platform. The annual challenge, which we call Bourstad Challenge, or Concours Bourstad in French, held annually from February to April. This coming year, it will be February 12th to April 12th. That's 9 weeks of financial markets. There is an academic version for high school and post-secondary non-university students. And this challenge includes 3 components: financial performance, portfolio management, and sustaining investment. But schools that register with the program can also set up their own Bourstad simulation, their own private Bourstad simulation at any moment of the school year. And these simulations have 2 components: portfolio management and financial performance. But as we'll see a little later, there are some aspects of sustaining investment in portfolio management. And on the platform, you have a Bourstad Anytime, which is individual, permanent, and totally free. In fact, if you don't already have an account in Bourstad, I recommend that you create your own account in Bourstad Anytime. Give a look at what will be the prizes in the Bourstad Challenge for secondary level, for high schools. So 3 components: responsible investment, financial performance, and portfolio management. So in each case, there will be a grand prize of $1,000 and a second grand prize of $500. There is also the overall performance, which is a combination of the 3 components, which come with a single grand prize of $1,000. In each schools where there are 20 participants or more, we will be awarding a mention of excellence for best portfolio and another one for best financial performance, and both will come with a prize money of $200. And some of our partners in Bourstad are interested in having more women in the field of finance. So they are awarding grand prizes strictly for female contestants. So we have the best portfolio management by a female high school student, and the best overall performance by a female high school student. It comes respectively with $500 and $1,000. So a testimonial that we can look at École Secondaire Internationale de Montréal. We offer many other activities to our students, including simulations. None of these activities confronts our students with socioeconomic and financial realities as Bourstad does. So it was Mr. Renaud from École Secondaire Internationale de Montréal. So in the Bourstad simulation, the participant assumes the role of portfolio manager, or let's say advisor, for an investor who has entrusted him or her with 200,000 Canadian dollars. So we have real-time transaction processing for 601 tradable securities on real financial markets. We receive the quotations with a delay of 15 minutes, but we process the transaction at the price of the moment the transaction has been received for a trade at market price, because participants can also issue orders at a limit price, meaning that they're ready to buy if a certain price can be obtained, buying at this price or lower, and also you can sell at the limit price. Every morning, the dividends are paid, and we also have 36 actively managed investment funds, probably the type of investment that the parents of your students may have. So they may have investment funds actively managed. So for these, we just get one quotation per day in the evening, and we process these transactions in the evening. So the list of securities is made of 260 shares of Canadian companies spread all over Canada. Obviously, there are many corporations located in Ontario, and quite a big number also in British Columbia, because they have stock markets in these two provinces. But we made a particular effort to have companies from all over the country. 128 shares of US companies, mostly known companies, 27 of Asian companies, 16 companies located in Australia, South America, and Africa, 43 European companies, exchange-traded funds on equity, 60, exchange-traded funds on bonds. Bonds are debt of government or debt of corporations, so 44 ETF from Canadian and US bonds traded. All the products in Bourstad are traded in the eastern part of the Canada or the States, meaning that we get all the quotation from Toronto. Even Vancouver is working with Eastern Standard Time, in fact, or Eastern daily saving time, Eastern daily saving time. So we have ETF of alternative strategy, 17, and currencies, 6 currencies can also be traded in the Bourstad simulations. So maybe I can just switch to the application and perform a transaction right now. So let's go on the website. Log with one of my accounts. Okay, and I'll be using my Bourstad Anytime account, Bourstad en tout temps, and I'll be doing a transaction. I know that we have one person from Nova Scotia, so I'll be using a company that you may know in Nova Scotia, which is Empire. Empire is the company that managed Sobeys, for example. So here we have Sobeys, Empire company. And I see that, well, Sobeys finished the day at 38.91. And Sobeys is paying dividends. And the dividends from Sobeys is 18 cents and a quarter every 3 months. So that would amount to a yield, which is the annual dividend divided by the present price of the stock, which would be 1.55%. So let's keep that in mind. And if I click on earnings right here, I see that there are 5 analysts that are following the Empire stock, and they have issued target prices for the stock. It goes between 42 and 50 with a mean target price of 44.60. Suppose I would be buying at the current price, 38.91, and was able to sell later in the year at $44.60. That would represent an increase of 15% in my money. Okay, I would make a profit of 15% only with the increase in the price of the stock. So I'll issue a buy order at market price. It will be processed tomorrow at the opening. Canadian markets are open tomorrow, while the American ones are closed for Thanksgiving. So I'm buying 200 shares of Empire. Since I don't own no shares of Empire as we speak, I'll be owning 200 shares after the transaction. And you can see here that my current buying power, my money, in fact, is $164,000. So I'll be left with, this doesn't have to be absolutely precise because I'm not sure at what price I'll buy the stock. But let's say that I have to try to be as accurate as possible, but there is a tolerance of $250 on this amount. So here I have to say something about my purchase. When I buy a stock, normally my liquid asset will decrease. And I have to know in what field of activity Empire is operating. Since Empire, in fact, it's Sobeys and other grocery stores, I should know that I will be increasing the share of my consumer products in my portfolio. And in a moment ago, we look at the dividends from Empire, and if you see investment in income objective, it's what I will get from dividend interest, but I have to express it as an annual percentage. I believe I could make 1.5% by investing in Sobeys. I've made the computation, and I was mentioning you that if I could sell at 44.60, I'd be making 15%. But I'm not so hungry for yields, so I'll just write something like 8.5%, meaning that if I can make 10% by investing in Empire, I'd be happy, in fact. So I continue. I have the opportunity to review my transaction. I'm buying 200 units of Empire. I submit the trade, and it'll be processed tomorrow morning. Okay, so here we've done a trade, but there are features for portfolio management as well. So a section where you can describe what investors has handed you $200,000 to manage. what you know about this persons is qualitative description, is quantitative description. What will you be doing as a manager? Will you try to beat the stock market or be passive? Something that can be done quite easily nowadays with ETF, exchange traded funds, because these funds have very little fees, management fees, in fact, compared to what we used to have when you would have a real advisor watching you doing your trades. Will you be using top-down approach, which is relying on what is a widely available public information, or will you do some bottom-up approach? Will you be visiting the premises of the companies you want to buy stocks in? Will you be trying to meet people working in these companies, or trying to get information, or maybe reading the very fine notes in the very thick annual report of those corporations, which is something like bottom-up as well? How will you allocate your funds? What will be the asset allocation of the $200,000? And finally, a section about what will your student be trying to learn by participating in the stock market simulation. Okay, so we have automated evaluation of portfolio management, formative evaluation, summative evaluations, many measures here. They are all listed. Teachers can have a description of all the computation behind these specific measures. And when you have teacher privileges on the platform, which we can provide without the necessity of your school being registered with the program. If you create your account in Bourstad anytime, send us an email asking for teacher privileges, and you'll be able to consult all the documentation on the platform, which is strictly for teachers. So socially responsible investing in Bourstad. In the Bourstad Challenge, we have a guide. The guide is available to all those that connect to the platform. It's a 25-page guide on sustaining investment. In the portfolio management, you also have to indicate, is the person that have asked you to manage his or her money, is that person socially responsible? Is she aware of socially responsible investment? Will you, as the manager of the money, take into account the extra financial risk about environment, society, and governance of these companies? If a student participates in the Bourstad Challenge, they will be invited to pass an online qualifying test with something like 38 objective questions, but 2 essays question, and the exact formulation of these questions are part of the rules of the contest. So they will already know the question before passing the test. And it's automated evaluation as well. So as we saw, there are grant prizes for this component of the platform. So the program for high school, registration of a school in the program enable the school to enroll students of the school in the 2024 Bourstad Challenge. And we have a high school category and a post-secondary categories. They are not competing against each other. Don't worry. And schools can also organize private simulation for the school student at any moment of the school years. In registered school, there is some individual that we design as the institutional head of the school. That person can create private simulation, can create participation groups, either in the Bourstad Challenge or in their private simulations. And they can also designate group supervisors among their colleagues. A group supervisor can manage the participation in the group they are supervising and consult the detailed participation of every student in these groups. To register with the Bourstad program, there is a registration fee of $75 for the school. And when students participate in simulation, there are no additional charge for students participating in private Bourstad simulations. But if you have students, some of your students enrolling in the 2024 Bourstad Challenge, there are two ways to do it. That could be by individual participation, and then the fee would be $10. But participation can also be done in tandem. A tandem is a team of two students. Both the students have their own access account to the platform, but they manage a single simulation account in the challenge. So I don't know if I still have a few minutes, Jennifer. It's okay to go on. So let's give a look. Well, okay. So are there any questions before we go on? Okay, fine. So let's give a look at the dashboard of the institutional heads and the group supervisors. So there are three widgets. One is the overview of financial performance, portfolio management, analysis of net return. The second is about formative evaluations. What grades are your students being, what grade have they obtained, have they get in these formative evaluation measures? And some statistics about what your students are doing in the simulations. And as before I go on, you can look at the information for a single group or for a whole simulation if you are the institutional head of the simulation of your school. So the overview, first you have the financial performance, you have the number of transactions by each student, the value of the portfolio. Are they fundamental or technical, which are two types of analysis that we can do about the stock market. A second tab in the overview is about portfolio management. What marks are being attributed to every student in your class? So what marks are they getting? So, and you can see, are they applying a top-down approach, a bottom-up approach? What importance do they give to responsible investing as a manager? Okay, number of transactions and the marks. And the third one is about the net return. So what part of the appreciation is simply the increase in the value of the stocks they own, and what part is due to the dividends they receive every morning in their portfolio. So you have this distinction between the two components of the appreciation. There are also a widget about the formative evaluation. So you have the opportunity to give a look at, is the investor's definition realist? I mean, someone is telling you that is working part-time, wrapping groceries during the weekend, and he has $200,000. That's not very realist. And maybe someone else will tell you that Warren Buffett asked him to manage his money. Warren Buffett could not earn his money by a chunk of $200,000. That would not be possible. So it has to be realist. And also the whole situation has to be coherent with the risk profile as well. and what proportion of the money has been invested in the market, and how close is the actual portfolio with the asset allocation done by the student. How close is it? So you can give a look at either for the group or the whole simulation, what part of the whole class has invested in consumer product, in liquidity, in financial services, in public services, etc. Consumer product, industrial products. And finally, if you want to give a look before entering class, exactly in what your student have invested their money, you can give a look at that information as well. So the last thing we introduce on the application is a notification system. So as institutional ed, you can send notification to participants in one group or to all groups. You can send notification to all your private simulation, to one simulation, or to one group of a simulation. You can send notification to the people responsible for relation with institution and participant, being the operational center of Bourstad, and you can send notification to your group supervisors. And you receive notification from your group supervisors and from the operational center, people responsible for relation with institution and participants. The group supervisor can as well use the notification system to communicate with the participant of his groups, either in the Bourstad challenge or in the private simulation. He can also send notification to the institutional head of his school. He received notification from institutional head or for the operational center as well. So here you have the, let's say we call it a rich format HTML editor that you use for your notification. You can include a video, you can include a link, you can format the text. We have not included the possibility to put an image, but let's say that with a link, you will probably find ways to link to images as well. And finally, you have a tracking system of your notification. You can have a look at who exactly connected on the platform and who among your students have read the notification. The support is a wide range of documentation, the information on securities, how it works, the contest rule, educational content, some tests, information provided to us in both French and English by Autorité des Marchés Financiers, same thing from CFA Montreal in both French and English. Financial game from CIRANO, the honor roll, and every time we send an email to participants, what something we do a few times during a challenge, we post the email in this folder so everyone can look at it, even if the email has not reached destination. And other type of support would be by email, by telephone. We have a Facebook page. Every week on this page, on Sunday, we publish a weekly market commentary. We give information about days off, like you'll probably see tomorrow a commentary about the fact that it's Thanksgiving in the US and the US markets are closed. And we provide also the list of the winners. And there is a guide for institutional heads and group supervisors. We offer webinars. In fact, we have already give 2 webinars, one on the Bourstad program, one on integrating Bourstad in a course. And we are preparing a 3rd one in January about coaching participants in the Bourstad challenge. During the simulation, there are webinars for participants as well on evenings, because we have to find a moment when everybody is available. So there is a webinar on how financial market work, one on portfolio management, and the third one on socially responsible investing. Since we are at CIRANO, every year we have improved the platform. The last thing we added was the internal notification system. So you can give a look at all the improvement we did, and we are constantly on the lookout for new improvement to bring to the platform. Two ways to register. You can perform online registration. Many schools are already on the platform, but if your school is not there, just you will find a link to just ask us to add your school, and we'll do it very quickly. But if you have teacher privileges, you will find in the teacher kit a PDF form that you can fill and send us as well. For your students, you will have to end your student either by sending email. It can be done. You can send as many as 60 emails in a single operation. You can either send it by email or print a PDF file and activation code individually to each student in the classroom. So when the student has the activation code, he will just go on the website, click on register on the landing page, participant. He chooses either Bourstad Challenge or the private simulation. He enters the code. He will have to fill the form and is ready to go. Finally, a testimonial from one of our participants. In our little Franco-Manitoban school, we have a finance club, and through it, I had the opportunity to participate in this contest. We were always talking about how we are going to invest when we get old. But it's one thing to say we're going to do it, and another to have a profitable investor profile. It was a good practice for my future as an investor starting with Bourstad. And that to say that I owe you something for having instilled in me the idea that someday maybe I'll start a career in finance. So we enjoyed that testimonial, I must say. Although it's financial education for everybody, and we're very aware that not everyone will be interested in having a career in finance. Okay, so question or commentary about what I just exposed to you?
I wrote, hi, I'm sorry I was late. We had parent teacher. It's sorry to ask this kind of late, and you probably already answered it, but if I could, just looking at the cost, I'd have to defend it in front of a principal. Is there a way to play this private simulation game, like a game myself?
No, your school has to register with the program. There's no way we can, but what you could do with Bourstad Anytime is individual, free, and permanent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You don't have any teacher features on Bourstad Anytime because there's no way we could make it possible. It starts
right
at any moment. But we know that many teachers are using Bourstad Anytime is they just can't find a way to register their school with the program.
Right. So I get, so just quickly, it was 75 for the school. And then say if I had partners, the partners would be 15 for 2 kids?
Yes, two kids, that would be $15 for a tandem. We call it a tandem.
Okay. But if I did the 75, like my next question was, do many schools run this as a club, or do they mainly have like a class set, what we would say of would they run it for, like, I'm here because of citizenship, we have financial citizenship, and I just
In fact, we have both model are used in some schools. It's a club. It's not part of a course. It's a club. Parascolaire, as we would say in French. I don't.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. It was really fun. I'm sorry I was late though, but parent teachers.
Oh, absolutely. So Paul, were you saying that the school only has to register one time and then that is a permanent registration, or is it every year they have to pay this $75?
Every year. It's annual. It's every year.
Okay.
But they can set up as many private stock market simulation as they wish. We don't have, there's no limit on the number of participants to a stock market simulation, except that it has to be students from the registered school.
Right.
And
then for the games, are those, do you have to pay the $75 to do that first part that we were talking about?
No, there's no charge, absolutely no charge for FinÉcoLab. That's totally free. That's totally free, FinÉcoLab.
Yeah. Yeah, so Janie, those ones might fit quite well in Citizenship 9.
Okay, thanks so much. I love something free.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, no, FinÉcoLab, that's totally free. That's totally free.
Yeah.
And I would say too, oh sorry, I'm gonna turn my camera on, Janie. I would say too, like if you did the FinÉcoLab ones and you really liked them and you were using them a lot, and then you thought you wanted to try the stock market one, you've got some kind of experience behind you where you said, oh, my class has done all these things and we'd really like to take it to the next level. And then you can kind of maybe pitch that more to your principal if you wanted to have the school registered, that you've already tried these other resources from CIRANO and that they're, really, really
Maybe
good, or the students enjoyed them, or maybe you have a few kids who are really quite taken with finance. Like I know I'm thinking of a student last year in grade 9, and he was like, this would have been perfect for him because he was just so much more into it than the rest of the kids. And I had to try and like rein him in a little bit. But if I could have gotten him onto this and said, like, go have fun, invest, he probably would have really, benefited from something like that.
Maybe you can just suggest him to go with Bourstad anytime.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like at our school, we have a stock market club. And so to me, that makes a lot more sense, that the one that costs, well, that's the kids who want to join the club. But then, like you said, you have a course. Well, you don't want to charge kids to take the course, but there's a lot of games, and we'll post the links and everything once we kind of get everything all finalized, so you can see a lot of those games. And really what I found when you did the savings game, I'm like, I think even grade 6, grade 7 kids could probably handle that understanding of the money. And so you can kind of go through the different games for your class of getting them interested in these decisions that we have to make. And then, like Wendy said, when you find the kids that are total keeners and want to pay to belong to a club, then you get them to do the actual stock market simulation.
Yep. Keep in mind that with the challenge, we'll be ending. It's new. We increase the amount of money for Bourstad 2024. In the past, it was $100, the mention of excellence. So if you have 20 students that register with the activity, we will return you $400 as mention of excellence, as prize money with the mention of excellence. So I don't know how rational you're ready to figure out the proposition, but we'll send you more money back that you will have paid to us. And it's possible because we have very generous partners. And Autorité des marchés financiers, we also have the Canadian Investment Regulatory Organization, which previously known as IROC. It's all over Canada, and they are very, very interested in the fact that we are, in fact, training people about what the stock market is.
Yeah, I feel that why I asked the question, and I'm really happy I missed the part I need to listen more about that. I have to go back into your site, but I would need to play before I put it in front of my kids. So thank you. I'm one of those that made it through school without any training in this. And I think, like you said, Wendy, like there's kids that we know that would do this. So thanks. It's been really good. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your participation, and look forward maybe to welcome you either in FinÉcoLab or in Bourstad.
Okay. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you.
Gonna dip out. I'm gonna go to bed.
Right? Exactly. Merci beaucoup, Paul. We really appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, we'll get a blog write up and we'll get the video posted and we'll get this shared more and more.
And thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. It was very pleasant to do that presentation to your members, and thanks for your excellent collaboration. It was greatly appreciated.
Great.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye now.